7 demonic spaces that instantly drain your vibration. Most people don't realize that energy is language. It's not just a feeling or a vibe, it's a conversation between your soul and the environment around you. And just like there are spaces that elevate, amplify, and awaken you, there are also spaces physical, emotional, digital, even mental that act as spiritual vacuums. They don't just make you tired. They don't just stress you out. They feed on your light. And if you're not aware of them, you'll keep walking into them, wondering why your vibration keeps crashing no matter how many crystals you carry or meditations you do. We call them demonic spaces, not because they look like haunted houses or horror movies, but because they carry the signature of devolution. These are places where energy becomes corrupted, where consciousness is fragmented, where awareness is numbed. They are portals, some man-made, some ancient, some accidental, and they have one thing in common. They exist to pull you down, not physically, but vibrationally. And the scariest part, most people live in them every single day.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
I've been there. We all have. Sometimes we think we're just tired, just overwhelmed, just off. But what if that offness wasn't yours? What if you were walking through a frequency field that had been infected generations ago? What if the room you sleep in was built on a land that holds unhealed grief? What if your workplace carries a collective spell of scarcity and self-betrayal? What if the group chat you scroll every night is actually a digital altar to anxiety, envy, and distraction? Let's start with the first demonic space, the one most people never suspect, the home of unresolved grief. This isn't just a house where someone died. It's any space where grief was felt but never fully expressed. When emotions are suppressed, especially grief, they don't disappear. They imprint. They stick to the walls. They live in the corners. They echo through the floors. And over time, if no one clears them, those emotions turn dense. The space becomes heavy. You walk in and feel tired. You try to work but can't focus. You sleep but never rest. That's not just bad energy. That's an emotional entity, and it will feed on anyone who enters unaware. Then there's the space of chronic judgment. You know this one. It's the room where everyone gossips, where people scan each other instead of seeing each other, where no one feels safe enough to be real. This could be a family dinner table, a break room at work, a group of friends who smile but secretly compete. These spaces are demonic because they fracture authenticity. They force you to shrink, to contort, to perform. And every time you do that, you leak energy. You hand over your light in exchange for inclusion. But inclusion without authenticity is not belonging, it's energetic death. Another one. Digital demonic spaces. This is a big one. Your phone is a portal. Every scroll is a ritual. Every click is an offering. If you spend your time consuming content from people who are angry, addicted to outrage, or hyper-obsessed with self-image, you are energetically opening yourself to their field. You don't need to be in the same room. Vibration doesn't care about proximity. It cares about attention. Where your attention goes, your energy flows, and the algorithms know this. That's why they feed you what keeps you in a loop, because loops are lucrative. But loops are also doorways. And some of those doorways lead to places where your soul can't breathe. There's also spaces built on betrayal. These are harder to detect because the betrayal has often been buried. A house where a marriage slowly died behind closed doors. A school where generations of children were silenced. An office where people were used and discarded. These spaces carry a frequency that teaches your nervous system not to trust. And when you're in them, you start doubting yourself. You second-guess your intuition. You feel small, like your voice doesn't matter. That's not you. That's the residue of betrayal still whispering in the walls. But the most dangerous space, the one that looks the most innocent, the space of spiritual bypassing. This is the yoga studio where everyone smiles but no one deals with their shadow. The retreat center where trauma is love and lighted into silence. The community where no one gets angry because anger is low vibration. These spaces are demonic because they pretend to be light while rejecting truth. And any space that rejects truth, especially emotional truth, becomes a breeding ground for energetic parasites. Because where truth is denied, energy stagnates. And stagnation is the breeding ground for darkness. You don't need to burn sage to clear these places. You need to confront them. You need to stop pretending. You need to walk into these spaces with your full awareness online and ask yourself, am I expanding or shrinking here? Is my breath deeper or shallower? Do I feel more human or more hidden? Because here's the thing, your vibration is your power source. It is your inner currency. Every thought, every interaction, every space either invests in it or steals from it. And most of the theft doesn't happen in dramatic, obvious ways. It happens quietly, in the background, in the name of normal. That's what makes it demonic. It seduces you into thinking you're fine, while slowly draining the very essence that makes you alive. So I want you to pause and reflect. What spaces do you return to out of habit, even though you know they leave you empty? What rooms do you walk into and immediately feel less like yourself? What digital spaces leave you feeling more anxious than inspired? That feeling you get, that tightening in your gut, that fog in your mind, that pressure in your chest that's not just stress. That's your soul saying, this is not for us. You don't have to escape the world to protect your energy, but you do have to see it clearly. Because once you see the space for what it is, you can choose how to engage or not engage at all. And that choice? That's where your power returns. And this is just the beginning. The most terrifying part isn't that these spaces exist, it's that some are designed with intention. They are constructed to siphon light, to keep people asleep, to maintain control. In the next part, we'll go deeper into how these spaces are engineered, the ancient spiritual mechanics behind them, and what exists beneath the surface of seemingly normal places. Where energy dies, the hidden portals that feed on your light. Most people think the places that drain them are just negative environments or bad vibes, but that language is far too soft, too vague. What we're really talking about are spiritual machine spaces that function like black holes, slowly siphoning life force from anyone who enters unaware. These aren't accidents. They're structures built either consciously or unconsciously to maintain a certain energetic hierarchy, a certain vibration of fear, shame, scarcity, or control. They are portals, and portals don't just exist on mountaintops or in mystical temples. They exist in boardrooms, bedrooms, subways, living rooms, and yes, even in spiritual spaces. You can feel it when you walk through the door. The air shifts, your spine stiffens. Your breath becomes shallower. You may not know why, but something inside you tightens. That's your field reacting. That's your energy defending itself. And if you stay long enough, it begins to wear you down, not because you're weak, but because the space is designed to wear you down. That's the horrifying truth. Some spaces are created to keep people disempowered, disconnected, and compliant. And the worst part, we've normalized them. Think of the average corporate office. Fluorescent lighting, artificial air, no windows, rigid time schedules, forced smiles. Everything about that environment is energetically sterile. It's not just draining, it's anti-life. It's a space where spontaneity dies, where intuition is muted, where your body is forced to conform to a rhythm that has nothing to do with nature or soul. The architecture itself is a spiritual cage. You're surrounded by screens, deadlines, and expectations, but no silence, no stillness, no truth. That's not just a workplace. That's a frequency farm. Your attention becomes the crop, your light becomes the fuel. And then there's the modern shopping mall. Have you ever noticed how time disappears in those places? They're built that way. No windows, no clocks, just artificial lighting, noise, and endless stimulation. These spaces are designed to separate you from yourself, to keep you in a low-grade trance of consumption. You don't buy things because you need them. You buy things because your vibration has been targeted, lowered, and redirected. That's not retail. That's ritual. Every advertisement is a spell. Every purchase is an energetic agreement. And every time you fall into the loop, you give away a piece of your sovereignty. But perhaps the most terrifying demonic space is the one that masquerades as spiritual, a place built on the image of awakening, yet anchored in hierarchy and performance. These are the temples of false light, the healing spaces where you're told to raise your vibration, but never to feel your rage, where vulnerability is curated for applause, where truth is filtered through the ego of the teacher. These places don't free you, they bind you. The light there is hollow, the peace is performative, and the energy is not clean, it's manipulated. You have to understand, demonic doesn't always mean dark and scary. It often means deceptive. These spaces don't yell, they whisper. They seduce. They promise safety, belonging, transcendence, but only if you play by the rules, only if you surrender your discernment. And that's the trade. You lose your sovereignty in exchange for the illusion of peace. But illusion is expensive. It doesn't just cost money, it costs vibration. And once your vibration is drained, you stop hearing your inner voice. You become more reactive, more anxious, more numb. You start looking for answers outside yourself. That's exactly the point. Because once you're disconnected from your core frequency, you can be controlled. That's the endgame of every demonic space, to sever your connection to self. Because a person who knows themselves deeply is unprogrammable. And the world we're in right now is built on programming. So ask yourself, where do I feel most disconnected from my intuition? What spaces make me shrink without even knowing it? When did I start believing that my exhaustion was normal? These aren't just personal questions. They're diagnostic tools. Because your body, your field, will always tell you the truth, but only if you're willing to listen. Sometimes the space isn't even physical. It's digital. A group chat where everyone trauma dumps but no one integrates. A social media feed that constantly compares, critiques, and consumes. These are not neutral spaces. They are coded. Someone designed them. Someone profits from your engagement. And in the spiritual realm, attention is currency. The more you give it away unconsciously, the more fragmented you become. That's not just distraction. That's spiritual dismemberment. But here's the good news. The moment you see it, you can start to reclaim your energy. Awareness is the beginning of reversal. Once you identify the pattern, the portal loses power. You can still walk into that office, but now you carry your own field. You can still scroll your phone, but now with intention, not addiction. You can still visit that family home, but now you recognize the ancestral loops and choose not to feed them. We are not here to escape the world. We are here to transmute it. But you can't transmute what you won't name. And these demonic spaces, they are real. They are everywhere. And most terrifying of all, they are normalized. But you are not normal. You are remembering. You are seeing. You are quaking up. And in the next part, we go even deeper into how these spaces are actually built. Not just energetically, but architecturally, psychologically, socially. We'll explore the blueprint of suppression, the geometry of entrapment, and most importantly, how to begin dismantling it. Not just for yourself, but for everyone who still can't see. The architecture of the invisible, how demonic spaces are constructed to keep you spiritually powerless. If we could see energy the way we see buildings, the world would be unrecognizable. We'd walk through cities and see towers of fear, rooms wallpapered with grief, entire neighborhoods pulsing with ancestral trauma. We'd see wires of manipulation hanging from ceilings, floors soaked in centuries of silence, and walls built not just from brick and cement but from intention to suppress, to control, to contain the human soul. We often forget that architecture is not just physical, it's spiritual. Every structure, whether it's a home, a shopping mall, a school, or a temple, holds the imprint of the consciousness that built it. And if that consciousness was rooted in fear, superiority, colonization, greed, or repression, then what do you think the building becomes? A monument to that frequency. A spiritual cage. A demonic space because it was constructed to diminish your light from the moment you enter. Consider the traditional school system. Rows of desks, bells that ring like factory alarms, walls painted in dull colors, windows that barely open if at all. The geometry of these buildings is not accidental. It is meant to train the child to ignore their inner rhythm, to suppress their natural curiosity, to value obedience over intuition. And once a child adapts to that vibration, they carry it with them. They enter adulthood already trained to abandon themselves in the name of structure. That's not education, that's energetic domestication, and the building itself reinforces it. Or look at modern cities. Skyscrapers stabbing the sky, fluorescent lights that never turn off, cement covering everything living. These aren't just signs of progress. They are spiritual scaffolds designed to keep us disconnected from the earth, from the stars, from ourselves. When you live in a city, you are constantly absorbing frequencies designed to keep your nervous system on alert. Sirens, screens, traffic, surveillance, movement without meaning. It's all architecture, and it's not neutral. Even sacred spaces have been infiltrated. Churches built to control rather than liberate. Temples that preach detachment but ignore injustice. Spaces where the geometry was once divine but has since been corrupted by ego, by the archy, by the obsession with spiritual performance. When a space once built for connection becomes a place of fear, shame, or elitism, it doesn't just lose its power. It reverses it. It becomes a siphon. It becomes a demonic space in disguise. But it's not just physical design. It's also social architecture, rules, norms, unspoken contracts. These are the walls you can't see but feel every time you walk into a space and immediately know who you're allowed to be. I think about the family dinner table where truth is off limits, the office where everyone plays a role, the friend group where vulnerability is a threat. These are not just dynamics. They are structures, and they are designed to keep you small. And the most insidious part, these spaces often reward you for compliance. You get praised for being quiet. You get promoted for playing the game. You get liked, followed, celebrated for being digestible. But every reward is a chain. Every compliment that celebrates your conformity is a brick in the wall of your own prison. That's how demonic spaces sustain themselves, not through force, but through seduction. So how do you recognize the blueprint? You tune into your body. Your body is the most advanced spiritual technology on earth. When you enter a space, ask yourself, is my breath deeper or shallower? Do I feel the urge to perform or the freedom to be? Does my body feel safe to expand or pressure to shrink? If your body whispers no, but your mind says it's fine, listen to the whisper. Your mind has been programmed, your body has not. And understand this, demonic spaces are not just created by evil people. Most are built by unhealed people, by generations acting out their trauma, by systems designed without soul. That's why it's so hard to break free, because these spaces are not held together by chains, but by normalcy, and what becomes normal becomes invisible. But we are here to make the invisible visible, to name it, to feel it, to refuse to participate in it unconsciously. That's how we begin to dismantle the architecture by no longer being the bricks that hold it up. When we stop feeding these spaces with our silence, our compliance, and our energy, they begin to collapse from within. And that's what terrifies the architects of suppression. Not rebellion, not riots, but remembrance. A human being who remembers their light cannot be manipulated. A soul that knows how to read space cannot be controlled. A person who listens to their inner frequency becomes immune to external noise. That's why we must remember. In the final part, I'll show you how to build your frequency escape plan, not just how to leave demonic spaces, but how to transmute them, how to protect your field, and how to become the kind of person who alters the frequency of every room they walk into. Because this isn't just about survival, it's about sovereignty. And you were never meant to live in a world that drains you. The frequency escape plan, how to reclaim your light and rise above energetic traps. Now that we've seen the truth of these demonic spaces, how they're disguised, how they're designed, and how they drain, you might be asking, what do I do now? Once you've seen the strings behind the puppet show, you can't unsee them. And that's a gift, because awareness is the first portal out. But awareness alone isn't enough. You need a strategy, a frequency escape plan. Not to run away, but to rise above. To walk into any space and remain sovereign. To be in the world, but no longer of its traps. This plan starts with one unshakable truth: your energy is yours. It doesn't belong to your boss, your parents, your past, your phone, or your trauma loops. It is your divine technology, and it responds to your choices in every moment. So the real work is not about avoiding all harmful spaces. That's impossible. The work is about becoming the space, becoming the frequency so strong, so coherent, so clear that even in the darkest room, you are the one holding the light. How? First, you must reclaim your inner authority. This means trusting your body more than the rules of any environment. Your body knows when something is off. It tightens, it contracts, it whispers. But most of us were trained to override those signals. We were taught to be polite instead of powerful, to be agreeable instead of aligned. That ends now. From this moment forward, your body's wisdom is your compass. If a space makes you shrink, you exit energetically. Even if your body stays, your field withdraws. You stop feeding it your attention, your presence, your agreement. That's the first layer of protection, energetic disengagement. Next, ritualize your energy hygiene. Just like you brush your teeth to remove physical buildup, you need daily practices to clear energetic residue. This isn't about expensive crystals or complex ceremonies. It's about intention. It's about presence. Every morning, take 60 seconds to claim your field. Say it aloud if you must. I call all my energy back to me. I clear anything that is not mine. I restore my vibration to its natural intelligence. You'd be shocked how much darkness flees when you simply remember your own light. Then, you must curate your environments with the same care you'd use to build a temple. Because your home is a temple. Your phone is a temple. Your relationships are temples. What you allow into them becomes part of your field. So ask yourself, does this feed my frequency or fracture it? Does this conversation nourish my soul or numb it? Does this space reflect who I am or who I used to be when I was still asleep? These questions are not dramatic. They are essential. Because your environment is not passive, it's a mirror, a magnet, a multiplier. But here's the real upgrade: become a frequency disruptor. Don't just protect your field. Use it. Walk into demonic spaces and consciously raise the vibration, not by preaching, not by fixing, but simply by being. Radiate coherence, embody presence, breathe deeply, ground your energy, make eye contact, speak truth. These acts seem small, but they are seismic, because darkness cannot thrive where truth is embodied. You don't need to fight the demons. Just refuse to abandon yourself in their presence. that alone dismantles them. And finally, ask yourself the deepest question of all: what kind of world do I want to build through my vibration? Not what kind of career or house or lifestyle, but what energetic architecture am I creating with every word, every thought, every space I choose to enter or exit? Because you're not just escaping these demonic spaces, you're replacing them with your presence, with your light, with the kind of frequency that makes others remember who they are. This is the true revolution, not loud, not violent, but vibrational, quiet souls reclaiming their spaces, sensitive hearts refusing to perform. A new architecture rising, one built not from concrete, but from clarity, not from control, but from consciousness. We are not here to survive demonic spaces. We are here to dismantle them, to walk into them, and anchor a vibration so alive, so present, so aligned that the space itself begins to shift. That is the power you've always had. You just forgot. But now you remember. Your energy is sacred. Your presence is medicine. Your frequency is the future. So guard it, sharpen it, share it, and rise.